Welcome to Stories Behind the Wealth, a podcast where high-earning professionals discover the real-life moments behind financial success with your host, Gaffar Chowdhury. Now, Gaffar, your guest today has a very impressive background in history. The retired chairman of Beveridge Diamond, PC, a top-ranked law firm focused on environmental and natural resource law and litigation. His bio and achievements are many, and we have them listed after the podcast. So, Gaffar, I'm going to throw it to you. Why don't you introduce your guest, welcome him, and get right into this podcast?
Thank you so much, RJ. I'm so incredibly excited to introduce Benjamin F. Wilson. He is a DC legal icon, environmental justice champion, a diversity advocate, and also, fun fact, proud uncle of NFL quarterback Russell Wilson. With that, Ben, welcome. Thank you so much for being on today.
Great to be with you, Gaffar, and such a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Amazing. Same here. So to kick it off, your journey begins in the Deep South, right? You were raised in Mississippi, is that right?
That is correct. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow.
In the 1950s and up through the mid-1960s. And it was a very turbulent time in the Deep South. And we'll talk about that more, I'm sure.
Yeah. With that being said, Ben, can you share how those early experiences shaped your passion for law and justice?
Absolutely, I can. You know, my parents were not unlike many other African-American parents of the era. They saw the world very clearly as it was, and yet they had a dream of what it might be. They hoped and prayed that a change would come, which was Sam Cooke's great song of that era. And they wanted us to be ready for the change, and they prepared us for the change. And fortunately, the change came, but not by accident, not without great personal sacrifice. You see, Gaffar, when I was 4 years old, Emmett Till was murdered for allegedly whistling at a white woman. That same summer, there was a minister by the name of George Washington Lee in Humphreys County, Mississippi. He was killed for daring to register to vote. Another gentleman had the same fate in Macomb, which is south of Jackson. And when I was 8 years old, there was a gentleman lynched for a crime he did not commit. And there was no mythical Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird to rescue him. By the time I was almost 12, 11 and a half, we had the terrible hoses and German shepherds that were sicked on the young people demonstrating in the park in Birmingham. That summer, June of 1963, Medgar Evers was killed in my hometown. He led the NAACP. That fall, the four little girls were killed in the church bombing in Birmingham between Sunday school and the church service. And that fall, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Mickey Schwerner were found buried ignominiously in an earthen dam in Neshoba County, Mississippi. And that was the summer of 1964, my 13th year. So quite frankly, those were very turbulent times. And we saw the law as an opportunity to change things. And if I could say very briefly, if I don't say anything else, I feel compelled to say this. There were these lawyers who, in addition to my parents, of course, changed everything for me. There was Wiley Branton, who represented the children at Central High School in Little Rock. There was A.P. Turo, who represented the little girl who integrated the schools in New Orleans, Louisiana. You know that famous Norman Rockwell picture of a little black girl in a pristine white dress, books and ruler in hand, an errant tomato on the ground, a racial epithet scrawled on the wall. That was Mr. Turo. To the east was Fred Gray. He's still living at 92. Fred Gray, at age 24, one of his first clients was a new minister in town, Martin Luther King Jr., and a seamstress, Rosa Parks. To the east was Donald Hollowell, and he represented Hamilton Holmes, and Charlene Hunter, a journalist who integrated the University of Georgia, escorted to school by this tall, dark, handsome fellow, Vernon Jordan. And in Nashville, where my family moved in 1967, there was a fellow by the name of Z. Alexander Luby, and he represented the students from Fisk University and Tennessee A&I State University who sat in at the lunch counters. Among those students that were his clients was a fellow by the name of John Lewis, Mr. Good Trouble himself. But the other person who influenced me was a woman with three names, Constance Baker Motley. I never met a woman with three names. And she did what no man would do. She represented James Meredith, who was integrating the University of Mississippi. His then wife was my student teacher. And I thought she must be 8 feet tall, Gaffar, because she did what no man would do. And I was a little disappointed when I met her and found out that she was not 8 feet tall. She was confident and firm and strong. But I learned an invaluable lesson. You don't have to be a man. You don't have to be physically imposing to change the world. So that's how the law influenced me. And I'd be very remiss if I didn't mention my parents, Harrison and Anna Wilson. They believed in me. And later, my stepmother, Lucy Wilson. They all invested in me, and I'm grateful to them.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. What a path, what a journey. That was really interesting. And then you went on to Dartmouth. Is that right?
I did. But there was an intervening period. I was to go to my high school in Jackson. That we were still very much segregated in 1965. And the coach had my helmet. I couldn't wait to go. And my father told me I was going to this prep school in Western Mass. And I had to read 3 books, Gaffar, in a week. And I had one suit, and my parents bought me another suit and an ill-fitting jacket. They wore jackets and ties to class every day. And I was on a plane off to school. There was a woman who was a professor at Jackson State University, and Miss Tatum, and she'd been to the Shakespeare play, Stratford, Connecticut, Stratford-on-Avon, and she met the admissions director at my school, and they were looking for Negro boys to integrate the school. She says, I know just a little boy, and I'd taken some tests and apparently did well, and off I went. And but that led to Dartmouth, which I love dearly. I'm even wearing my green tie. I don't know if it comes through on the screen.
I can see it, yeah.
But it meant a great deal to me.
That's fantastic. And not only did you go to Dartmouth, magna cum laude.
Well, there were some wonderful students at Dartmouth, as you might expect, and I was inspired by their example. There was a fellow by the name of Bill McCurran, who later became a federal judge in California. There was Jesse Spikes, who was a outstanding student. There was Willie Bogan, who was a teammate on our football team, and they were all superb students. They were all Rhodes Scholars, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be a student, and I wanted to be a student athlete.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch with any of those colleagues?
Yes, very much. So there are 6 or 7 fellows that I was on the football team with. They all enjoyed far more success than I, but I remained friends for life. And so, yes, Dartmouth was a school because we were along that Connecticut River, beautiful campus, harsh winters, but it was a little bit like being in the service. It was an experience that you only could appreciate it if you've been through it yourself. And so there was a camaraderie that has held us together for 50 years now. So I'm grateful for those friends, white and black, and from that era.
Yeah. When you played football, what position did you play?
I was a safety. I was an angry little man. And but
you're probably fast.
I had good speed. I ran track, but I'd hurt my knee. I really never quite lived up to my potential, and I'm confident, like many former athletes, I was a lot better in my mind than I was in fact. But I loved it, and we had a wonderful team. Our 1970 team was undefeated. We gave up 36 points. We were ranked ahead of Southern Cal, Notre Dame in the UPI and AP polls that year, and it was a fantastic team. And I was very proud to be on the on that team, albeit at the end of the bench. But I was very proud of that.
That's really cool. And then after Dartmouth, you went on to Harvard and graduated with honors.
Well, I I don't recall the honors part, but I do recall graduating. And the big event for me at Harvard is I met my wife on the first day of law school, Miranda.
Wow.
And I liked her immediately, Gaffar. And so I was going to give her a tour of Cambridge, Massachusetts. All I knew was where the stadium is along the Charles River. But I had good vision. I could read the signs a half mile away. And she did not have good vision. And although being much smarter than I, it didn't take her very long to realize I didn't know what the heck it was I was talking about. But my goal was limited. I just wanted to get to second date. And the rest is history.
That's fantastic. And you guys are together now 49 years.
49 years on the this week, if I don't mess it up. So
that's right.
So very grateful. You know, marriage is one of those. It's an investment that the longer you stay in it, the greater the return. And I'm very grateful for her.
Yeah. I remember when you met my wife recently, she asked you the same question that she asks folks that have been married over 25 years. And that was, what's your best piece of marriage advice? And one of the things you said really resonated with me, which is have patience with one another. Yeah. So I appreciated that.
Well, I think patience is important. And as you know, the younger you are, the earlier you are in a relationship, the less likely you are to have patience. So it's a strength that's cultivated. And I think when in doubt, Gaffar, with the people you love and the people you care about, I attempt to invoke the golden rule. When I don't know what to do, I ask myself, how would I like to be treated? And almost always that provides a good answer and as to how I should treat the other person, interact with the other person. And so far, so good.
Yeah, I would say so. That's fantastic. So from Harvard, you went on to a law firm. Was it King and Spalding after Harvard?
Yes, I started there.
And then the DOJ.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that experience and how it may have shaped your passion for law, for specifically environmental law.
Well, it's fascinating, Gaffar. The short answer is not at all, but but I will I will embellish just a little.
Yeah.
King and Spalding is an amazing law firm, and back then it was the largest firm in the Deep South. We had all of 90 lawyers, one office in Atlanta. They're national and international today. But it was also the firm that gave us Griffin Bell, who became the Attorney General of the United States, Jack Watson, who was a secretary to Jimmy Carter's cabinet, and a fellow by the name of Charles Curbo, who was a close advisor to President Carter. They'd been friends for their entire adult lives. And so it was a very exciting time. Gaffar, I recall coming into the office in early November of 1976 and seeing Gloria Steinem on the elevator and Vernon Jordan sitting in the lobby. He was extremely kind to me, as always. And I realized I was in a very special place. But the perfect truth is that I remember there was more red ink on the first brief that I wrote than anything, Gaffar. They may have corrected the spelling of my name. And it was so bad at some point they sent me to the tax department. So the truth is I failed at my first law firm. And I didn't know anything about tax. So my response to something I don't know is to write about a topic I don't know anything about. And I published 6 articles, I think 3 or 4 of which related to tax, and my writing improved. But I realized, Gaffar, that I wanted to develop a great command in the law. Have you ever seen a great musician play without the music in front of her, or a Stephen Curry dribble the ball. He doesn't dribble with his head down. He dribbles with his head up. And I wanted to dribble like Stephen. I wanted to play the trumpet like Marcellus. And so I decided I would go to the Department of Justice, and I knew they would stick me in the deep water and I would either drown or swim. And it would be unfair to describe what I did as swimming, but I'm here, which means I did not drown. And when I left there after 3.5 years, I could dribble with my head up. I could play the trumpet without the music. And I had a facility, a confidence in the law that I had not had right out of school. And so I'm very grateful for that experience. But it was that skill, learning how to litigate, learning how to try cases, learning how to argue before 3-judge panels in the Court of Claims and all across America, that gave me great confidence when I came out into private practice.
And then you went on to join Beveridge Diamond.
Well, before there, very quickly, I was with a firm called Chapman, Duff and Paul. Their number one client was a Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, and they were the number one target of EPA. And it was a fascinating case because my mother said that one day, son, you're going to use your Spanish that I'd learned in school. She would have been very disappointed to know that was my knowledge of Spanish curse words and Latin baseball players and boxers that held me in such good stead. But I learned how to defend a client. I learned how to get the client to understand the changes that we needed to make, irrespective of the external pressure of a court or a federal or state agency, that we needed to come into compliance, and thus began a pattern of how I represented my clients and helped bring them into compliance, so that we went from being on a most wanted poster to a poster of a model citizen in terms of how to make effective change, improve the environment, and deliver invaluable service to a community. And so that's really where it started. I was very fortunate to join Beveridge Diamond. It was then, as now, the largest firm dedicated primarily to environmental law. I think I was about the 25th lawyer there. I believe there are 175, 180 lawyers there now and growing. I think the goal is I think they'll be at 250 very soon. And so it was a great firm, a great practice. Albert Beveridge and Henry Diamond were our named partners. They had done a remarkable job to get our firm started. And what made us different is that we had real depth. Some firms have a Mr. Clean Water or Ms. Clean Air. We had 3 or 4 of those in each of the environmental statutes. And our work was not only national, but it was international. And so the firm, over time, became a firm that people saw as the go-to firm if you had a bet the company environmental case. And that was the goal, was to build that firm in that way.
Yeah. And you had quite a list of accomplishments at Beveridge Diamond. And I'll just mention a few. You were the first African-American partner at Beveridge Diamond. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's true.
And then you went on to being the managing principal and then ultimately chairman in 2017. What moments would you say defined your leadership philosophy along the way?
First, I felt that if you want people to follow you, you have to model the behavior that you wish them to adopt. And so, again, I attempted to work very hard, but a lot of people work hard. I attempted to value service, the service that I delivered to my client, not as I saw it, but as my client saw it. I wanted them to understand that I was for them and with them, irrespective of whatever the short-term outcome might be for me. And then I attempted to learn not only my own skills, but what was unique about my partners, so that I could, out in the marketplace, sell their skills. it won't take long to talk to me to realize, geez, there must have been somebody else that knew more about water or air or soil contamination or endangered species than Ben. And there always was at Beveridge and Diamond. But I was able to help others, I think, find their voice. And I hope that's what I did. And respectfully, so many helped me. And you don't build a practice, you don't build a firm as we did unless people are willing to help each other. And I think that's been the secret ultimately to the firm's success.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Any landmark cases while you were at Beveridge and Diamond you want to talk about?
Well, there's several that meant a great deal to me. One case that I had that meant a great deal to me, of course, was the Volkswagen Dieselgate case. And that's where Volkswagen allegedly cheated on its air emissions. And it resulted in hundreds of cases across the country and around the world against that company. My friend Larry Thompson, he and I were at King and Spalding together. He later had become the general counsel of PepsiCo on 2 separate occasions, and he was asked to become the monitor on that matter. Because it was an environmental case, he came to me, as our firm was a leading environmental firm in the country. And I worked with him. I worked with others from the Kilpatrick Townsend firm and with Larry and other experts, non-lawyers. And at one point, we had over 90 people working on that project. And I'm proudest of the fact that I believe we helped change the culture of an iconic company. And I attribute that to the amazing leadership of Larry Thompson. I was also the monitor on the Duke Energy coal ash spill. When you burn coal to make power, there's a residue, which is coal ash. There's a river called the Eden River, like Garden of Eden, that separates Virginia from North Carolina. And on Super Bowl Sunday, the one that Russell's team won, coal ash gets into that river. And we had to compete for the opportunity to represent, or rather to serve as the monitor on the Duke Energy coal ash spill. And I'll never forget, Gaffar. I was sitting there in Greenville, North Carolina, and the federal judge was interviewing our firm, and he'd gotten our credentials. And I said to Judge, may I have a closing? And there, of course, there's no closing, Gaffar. I hope you're laughing at me. And he says, go ahead. What do you want to say? And I said, well, Your Honor, this is Friday, and tomorrow evening there's a single mother within the sound of my voice, and she's going to turn on the water in the bathtub, and her 7-year-old daughter is going to bathe, getting ready for Sunday school, and her 3-year-old son is going to get in the water. She's not going to pull the stopper, and she's going to bathe the baby in the kitchen sink. She can't go to the Winn-Dixie and get that fancy store-bought water, bottled water. She has to trust the water, and she can no longer trust that water. And a company that bears the name of a great family that's had as much impact on the state of North Carolina as any Duke is being charged with responsibility for this problem. It's my obligation, I believe, if you choose me, to help you restore the faith of this woman in a product without which none of us can live. And I'm very busy. You haven't asked me, but if you choose to have me, I'll give you everything I have. And we will help ensure that this woman can turn on the water without fear. And 5 days later, he chose our firm.
Very well said.
And then the last case I would talk about involved a fellow whose name is Carl Dupree. He was a student at Gallaudet University. Gallaudet's the leading university for the deaf in the country. And education for the deaf is uneven across America. And he was choked to death, taken down by 2, 4, 6, eventually 8 campus police officers, male and female, black and white. The problem is they could not sign. And this was a critical time in higher education of the deaf. For the first time, Gallaudet had a president who himself had hearing challenges. And ultimately, we resolved that case in a manner that I hope gave his widow and their 4 children the same opportunities as a husband and wife the Duprees had prayed for and had worked for. So I would tell you that the pro bono work that I had the privilege of doing there with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, with other groups, it was quite gratifying, and it helped complete my career. But please forgive me, I'm talking too much. And
No, that was very interesting. I appreciate you sharing. Speaking of pro bono work, I know you are a huge advocate for diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
You've built some networks throughout your career, and I know you continue to stay involved. Can you talk a little bit about those and why that's been meaningful for you?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion have become bad words. And I know all the bad words, and it wasn't until recently that anyone suggested that these were inappropriate. If you can imagine what the legal profession was just 50 years ago, it was generally all male, all white. I don't believe that anyone in their heart of hearts believes that the only people capable of being excellent lawyers are male, are white, are straight, are of a particular faith. Of course not. Are all able-bodied? Of course not. We know that talent is not limited to one group of people, one region of the country. And what our clients want and what they deserve, and that's really what the law is about. It's about the client. It's not about the lawyer. Is the best possible talent that they can bring. And that's what our clients demanded at Beveridge and Diamond, and that's what we worked very hard to give them. In terms of things that I've attempted to do, first, within my own firm, I was an advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and we worked to advance gender balance within our firm. That meant women leading firms, leading the office. It meant women getting credit for work that we originated. It meant African Americans getting opportunity to show what they could do. I never did this alone. We did this together. I did start something called the Diverse Lawyers Network, and then I started the African American Managing Partners Network and General Counsel Network. And the idea was to make certain that people could see us, that they were aware that we existed, that this wasn't simply an isolated person of excellence, but that excellence existed everywhere. Gaffar, do you know who John Wade Prentice is?
Not familiar with that name.
Well, he's a fictional character. He was a character that Sidney Poitier played in the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And if you recall, there's this famous scene where Spencer Tracy, the father, and Katharine Hepburn, the mother, are sitting around the phone. This is before Google and before Bing, and they're trying to learn about this fellow John Wade Prentice who wants to marry their daughter. And somewhere in there they say Yale Medical School, 1954, Johns Hopkins School of Infectious Diseases, 1957, wife dies, and Spencer Tracy's character says, aha, in an automobile accident. Well, in that movie, they make Sidney Poitier the perfect man. And of course, we know no one's perfect. And, but I don't believe that attorneys of color should have to be perfect to compete. They just need a chance. And so that's what we've been attempting to advance. I'm proud of the fact that we had our 15th annual dinner at the 100th anniversary of the National Bar Association, which was created when the ABA would not admit Black attorneys. And we raised money for scholarships for 5 students who wished to become lawyers who are in law school now. You see, the longer we live, Gaffar, the more I realize it's not about me. It's really about these generations coming, people I don't know, haven't seen. And the whole point is we want a legacy that ensures others have meaningful opportunity.
I love it. Love it. And speaking of scholarships, you have a scholarship that was created in your name at Howard Law. Is that right?
Yes. And I owe that to my friends at Beveridge and Diamond, my partners and colleagues. And I've been teaching at Howard for 21 years. I think they like me because I'm free, Gaffar, but I love my students. I've been a guest lecturer at maybe 15 different law schools across the country. I've found those students more enterprising, more intelligent than those that I've met at Howard. And the whole point is, if you really want to change the world, if you really want to bring about diversity, Howard is a great place to do that. And so I'm very proud of my students and very proud of these scholarship recipients. Now, I know the theme of this show there's a connection with wealth. And I wanted you to know that through the hard work of my wife and yours truly, we've been blessed to build wealth. But ultimately, what matters most is not the things that we have. I've seen King Tut's tomb, you see the gold. And apparently it didn't go to heaven with him. And so I think what life is about is the impact you have on other lives. Jackie Robinson was my hero. He says a life is unimportant except in the impact it has on other lives. And if in a very small way I've had a positive impact, that is wealth enough for me. Although I like the other part too, but the fact is, having a positive impact is really what life's about. And I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, that's an excellent segue to what I was going to ask you next. How important it sounds like it's very important to leave a lasting legacy for you and your wife.
Well, extremely important. And you measure legacy in a lot of different ways. So obviously, financial legacy, there are things we wish to do for our family, and we will be in a position to do that, God willing. And hopefully a legacy for organizations and others in whom we have great belief and great hope. And so that's what we've tried to do while we're living. I think that's what we'll try to do when we're no longer here. But for me, the great pleasure is when I have someone call me and they tell me that they've succeeded, that whatever advice or short discussion we may have had allowed them to continue. You see, every day, every week, I speak to someone who's about to wave the white flag of surrender. They're ready to throw in the towel, as they say in boxing. And my purpose is in speaking with them, is to let them know it's not over yet, that there are things they can do. And through a series of questions, the old Socratic method, what is it that you want to do? Why is it that you want to do it? What are the steps you think you have to undertake to get there? And where I can intercede, help them advance and cross those hurdles that are between them and their goals. And so for me, that's very gratifying.
Yeah. What's one piece of financial advice that you've received that really sticks out to you throughout the course of your life and career?
Well, geez, there's so many little pieces. When I was a boy in the Deep South, they would not sell life insurance to Black people, which is why those burial associations were started: North Carolina Mutual, Atlanta Life, and Mammoth Life. And my father believed in that. And I ended up on the board of Northwestern Mutual Life, the leader in the insurance industry. And I was a lead director there for several years. And so I felt strongly that building wealth in insurance as a part of your wealth plan was important. The other thing that I learned, Gaffar, and I don't know about you, but I saw financial success as one of those 15,000 piece puzzles that someone gives you as a birthday or a holiday gift. You say, my God, how do I put this together? And you look at the picture of the box and you try to figure it out. So I knew I needed to be in the market. I knew I needed to have real estate. I knew I needed to understand the bond market, but I couldn't learn all of those things overnight. And I don't know about you, I was a little stubborn. I was something of a know-it-all. And so I had to be ready to learn. But over the course of time, with great advisors, some of whom were at Northwestern, and helped me get there. And it's interesting because among those questions that I get every day from the people I speak with, they'll say, I'm doing well, but I don't know where all my money's gone. I don't know what's going on. And I will ask, do you have an advisor? Are you planning? What are you doing with the retirement at your office? What are you investing? Are there any kind of long shot investment opportunities that you're pursuing? And whenever they say, take my advice and reach out to an advisor, they will come back to me as though I've provided a bone marrow transplant or a kidney that saved their life. Because in the end, we all want peace of mind, don't we? And I think it was the Beatles who said money can't buy you love, and they're right about that. But it can help with the satisfaction. Rolling Stone. Actually, that was Otis Redding who said, I can't get no satisfaction.
I know you're retired,
yes,
but if you have some free time, I've got an office open for you.
Yeah.
Here. You just let me know. Because what you said, you were spot on. That was fantastic.
Thank you. And again, it's something that we learn. And I think that's one of the other things I would say if I were starting at something. Remember that people want to get marital advice from someone who's been married a while. They want to get financial advice from someone that's successful, right? They want to learn about exercise from a premier athlete. They want to know, how did you get there? And but I think ultimately people have to ask themselves this question: why? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is the mark that I wish to leave? Why am I different? Why does my life have value? We're all pursuing answers to those questions. And
absolutely.
I believe the answer is, what has been my impact on others? And everybody I know that has made that a priority in their lives has a peace that passes all understanding, as they used to say in church. And I believe in that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I've been, admiring you from afar for many, many years, and it took the DC bar for our paths to cross, and I'm grateful for that. You've certainly left a lasting impact on me, even with this conversation today. So I genuinely appreciate that, and I know there are many others that feel that way. And on a lighter note, what's something people might be surprised to learn about you outside of your professional life?
Well, not a whole lot.
I doubt that's the case.
I think what you see is what you get. But
any hobbies, anything that you're doing these days that keeps you vibrant, keeps you upbeat, and all those things?
I'm an avid reader,
Okay.
and so I'm reading something all the time, and I'm not the best listener, Gaffar, and I find reading is a form of listening for me, because when I want to argue with the author, she or he is always silent, right? And
that's funny.
Or I'll read it again, and I'll say, okay, I get the point, I get the viewpoint, and I like to read the biographies because it helps me understand a person's why. And I read a recent book about Douglas and Lincoln, and how Douglas remained supportive of Lincoln even after losing the election of 1860. For him, ultimately, the Union was important as well. And I read a book about William Still, who was the ultimate conductor on the Underground Railroad. And there's a scene in which a man comes to him and he's looking for his brother, and it turns out this is actually Still's brother. And I say, gee, Monet, what is that like? What must that be like? And, so for me, it's fascinating to, read and to understand and, other
Biographies.
people. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
That's great.
and you always wonder, what would I do in that situation? And, I'm never,
Yeah.
and if we're honest, the truth is we really don't know. We're like the protagonist in the Red Badge of Courage. Are we going to cut and run or are we going to stand fast? We really don't know till we get there. And, I'd like to think I would stand fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got some games to attend, I think, this upcoming season. You know, we've got Russell now with the Giants. He's certainly had a phenomenal career to date. Do you get a chance to go to many games?
Well, we do go to the games and,
Okay.
more than he's on the East Coast than when he played in Seattle. But, but it's exciting for us. I remember, he was about 5 or 6 years old, and he was at his grandfather's house, my father's home, and he hit the wiffle ball over the fence. And my father said, this kid's got it. And I went to his first game in high school, and he gets in at halftime. It's 3rd and 21 from midfield. He throws a 50-yard touchdown. And
oh my God.
So he's very much a competitor. And I think what's inspiring, because you don't have to like football, but he was told he was too short. He was told he couldn't pass from the pocket. Can he read the defenses? And of course, he's proven all those things. And but we're all told that we're somehow not up to snuff in some form or fashion. And to me, that's the inspiring part of his life. It's not that he's a great player. It's that he defied the vision that others had of him. And
that was fuel for his success.
Well said, Gaffar. And that's fuel for anyone's success. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, we're all proud of our family members and all of that, but there's nothing special about my family as compared to anyone else's. We all have that capacity within us.
I would imagine holidays are pretty fun in your household, in your family.
They can be, but I can tell you one story that's kind of interesting. So he's about 7 or 8 years old, and my daughter was playing first base, and his older brother was playing outfield out in the street, and Russell hit the ball a ton, and his brother threw a strike, and he was out at home. And so he was very upset. He was crying. So we gave him another out, and he gets up again, hits it again. And of course, I made certain that the tag was late. So, but even then, he had this spirit of wanting to win. I think that's something that we all want to fan. And
yeah.
I think it's all really important. Now, I'll tell you one thing we didn't talk about was my daughter, Rachel. I'm very proud of her.
Oh, yes, please.
And,
yeah.
So Rachel works with the Orrick Law Firm. She's a director at that firm, and she's helping lawyers there realize their dreams. And
is this in D.C.?
In Washington, yes.
Oh,
so,
that's great. I didn't know that.
So she lives in suburban Maryland, so we get to see her and our grandson, who's 4.5. And so I don't know if we have a lot of hobbies, but the wife and I certainly enjoy his company. And we're grateful for our daughter and son-in-law and to have them so close by. And so that's the other thing that you realize as you get older is to see your adult children happy and making it in the world. That's very much a blessing.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. As we wrap up, any advice that you would like to share with law students that are sparked to pursue environmental justice and law?
First of all, if you look at what America is all about, from its very founding, the law has played a prominent role. The great case of the late 18th century was John Adams on behalf of the British soldiers at the Boston Massacre. And you may recall that the quote is, "Facts are stubborn things." And his point was that the soldiers were, in fact, being attacked, and their response thereto was not unreasonable. John Adams, the second president of the United States, the only, he's not the only man, the first president to have a son become president as well. President Bush was the second, of course. But that was the stand he took. There's no civil rights without lawyers. There's no environmental movement. There's no women's rights movement without lawyers. And so the law is absolutely essential. I know of no other profession where people give away their service for free and at such a high rate. But that's what lawyers do. And so if one wants to be part of change, if one wants to impact the life around them, the law is a perfect place for that. To me, environmental justice is an interesting phrase, Gaffar. When I was a boy, we just called it plain old-fashioned discrimination if there was sidewalks on one side of the city and ditches on the other.
Yeah.
Environmental justice was just a fancy word for what we already knew. It's kind of like tuberculosis and consumption. Same disease. They just gave it a fancy name. And again, that is something that's currently under attack. The Assistant Attorney General, Harmeet Dillon, has said clearly in the case of Lowndes County, Alabama, they're backing away from a settlement in a poor black rural community where they don't have sewer service and there's raw sewage coming up through the ground. Really, I don't care if you call that environmental justice, discrimination, or just a terribly unhealthy situation. Don't we want to fix that? Don't we want to address that? Aren't people's lives important? You see, the child that changes the world may not be my grandson. It may be the child of this woman who lives in Lowndes County, Alabama. We need lawyers who have the will, like Wiley Branton did, like A.P. Turo, like Fred Gray. We need lawyers like Constance Baker Motley who are willing to not only speak, but act in a timely manner. And that's all. And so I think there's definitely a place for lawyers and a place for the law. Daniel Webster, when asked that question, said there's always room at the top. And what I would say, and Webster was the most famous Dartmouth graduate of the 19th century, but what I would say is there's always room for someone who cares. And no one has a monopoly on that. And but there are people that have a real need. And I hope we will never run from a problem. And because of what the problem is called, let's just fix it. And
well said.
Fix it. Now, I'll tell you the one thing you have not asked me about is climate change. And to me, that's the existential threat to life as we know it.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I think that's a whole nother podcast. We could talk for probably hours about that.
Climate is a real threat. And again, that's something else that we're not going to avoid simply by not using the word. If I don't use the word, that means it didn't happen? Of course not. And so what are we doing to begin addressing the problem?
Thank you. I know I could keep this conversation going for hours. You know, there's so much to talk about, and I greatly appreciate your insights. This was awesome. So thank you again for your time. I know how busy you are. And my offer stands. You know, if you do want to come in and need an office, I got you in DC.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that. I truly do. And but I made a promise to my wife that I'm retired, and I'm going to keep that promise. And
when Russell comes to DC to play the Commanders, just tell him to fumble a couple of times, and you know we'll be okay.
First game of the season. Have we ever lost to Washington here? I think we have. I think his record is 3-1 in Washington. We won.
Yeah. Well, I know for a
Won
fact he's
last
going to be
year,
much better than the quarterbacks that New York has had over the last, 2 regimes.
Well, we must admit, though, Washington has a great young quarterback and a great young team. They're going to be hard to beat, to say the least.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, well.
I think I couldn't be more excited about my team. So I'm really looking forward to this season. Fingers crossed we can repeat, if not do better than we did last year.
First game of the season. Looking forward to it.
Ben, do you want to share your LinkedIn?
Well, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, and my email address is benfwilson@outlook.com. And I welcome conversations, and even with people I don't know. And so thank you.
We greatly appreciate that.
Excellent. All right, very good. And thank you for tuning in to Stories Behind the Wealth. Be sure to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. If you are a busy, accomplished professional looking to build confidence in your financial future, visit us at districtwealthstrategies.com or call 202-759-8524 to learn how our team can help. Because money talks, we listen, and the stories are just getting started. For Gaffar Chowdhury, I'm RJ Malik, and we hope you'll join us for the next Stories Behind the Wealth podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Stories Behind the Wealth. Be sure to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. If you're a busy, accomplished professional or a business owner looking to build confidence in your financial future, visit us at districtwealthstrategies.com or call 202-759-8524 to learn how our team can help. Because money talks, we listen, and the stories are just getting started. The views and opinions expressed are those of the program participants and are not necessarily those of MML Investor Services, LLC. The material is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment specialist. Gaffar Chowdhury is a registered representative of and offers securities through MML Investor Services, LLC, member SIPC, OSJ 530 Gaither Road, Suite 350, Rockville, Maryland, 20850, phone number 301-355-5800. District Wealth Strategies is not a subsidiary or an affiliate of MML Investor Services, LLC.